Or good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when this finds you. Well, as I promised, I'm gonna keep on this topic for a minute about the chosen and what some of the verses from the Apocrypha talked about, because in reality, the Bible is a very in-depth book. However, it doesn't give us all the depth. And so that's why when I actually came across the Apocrypha and the books that were removed from the Bible, and it started answering questions for me that just weren't in the Bible. I said there might be some relevancy to these books that they removed because they're not missing. They mislabeled them as the missing books of the Bible, but they're not missing. They were removed. They should be more properly called the books that were removed from the Bible because they weren't missing. They've always been available, but as I mentioned before, I believe at the Council of Nicaea, they decided to remove them. And so I'm gonna just kind of stay on this track for maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 videos, something like that. I just don't know at this moment because when I start going through notes and stuff and coming across those scriptures, and I call them scriptures from the Apocrypha as well. I don't care what your pastor, what your preacher say. That's their deal. Because even looking at the books of the Old Testament, those are all English names. And I actually have the actual Hebrew names of all those books of the Bible, but I'm not going to be talking about that in this video or audio because I'm not putting myself on the camera because I don't like to get dressed up to just do videos and stuff like that. And I sit here and it's after midnight and I'm recording this and not to just brag or do anything like that, but I'm a night owl, and a lot of times I just like to do things at night. I can get a lot more accomplished at night. It's quiet. I know my phone's not going to be ringing for the most part. I might get a text message now and then, or one of my sisters might call me or dial me on accident or something like that. But for the most part, it's quiet. There's nobody knocking on the door. There's no packages being delivered. There's no phone calls. There's not a lot of traffic outside. And so I get a lot more of my thinking done in the late hours. And I hear all the experts say, sleeping 8 hours a night is the best form. Well, 8 hours might not work for everybody. And, you should be in bed, a certain time. I even heard it said that, you should be in the bed at 10 o'clock every night and sleep till 6. Well, what if your job doesn't allow that? And I slept at 7:48 yesterday morning. I was so excited. I hadn't stayed in the bed that long because when that sun comes up first thing in the morning on the, on the east side, it's just bright when it comes through those windows. So it's kind of hard for me to sleep when the sun's out like that in my face. But anyway, let me go ahead and get to my content because I'm just rambling right now. And I'm gonna, as I mentioned on last video, I'm gonna have to read these verses from the Apocrypha because even with the Bible, I'm not gonna sit here and try to impress anybody by calling off chapter and verse of a scripture. That's not important to me. I just need to know what it says. I don't care where it is. I just need to know what it says. Then I can go read it later. As I'm reading, I can find something and I just know what it says. I might take a note here or there, and that's all that's important. But in Matthew 15 and 24, Jesus answered, and this is not the part for that's Matthew, that's the book of Matthew. But Jesus answered and said, God sent me only to the lost people of Israel. Now, we have to ask the question, who's considered the lost sheep? They keep telling us the 10 tribes were lost. The 10 tribes ain't never been lost. Judah and Israel ain't lost. That's what they told you. So who are the only people? Think about it. Who are the only people in the world right now that don't have a place to call home? Think about it for a minute. In the book of Jasher, chapter 26, verses 12 through 17, this is what it reads. And they all inquired of the Lord concerning this matter. And they brought her word from the Lord and told her, 2 children are in thy womb, and 2 nations shall rise from them. And one nation shall be stronger than the other, and the greater shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were completed, she knelt down, and behold, there were twins in her womb, as the Lord had spoken to her. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. And all the people of the land called his name Esau, saying that this one was made complete from the womb. And after that came his brother, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel. Therefore they called his name Jacob. And actually it's Jacob, Y-A-C-O-B. But because there was no letter J back then. And that's why Jesus is actually called Yahshua, because there was no J. But anyway, they called his name Jacob. And Isaac, the son of Abraham, was 60 years old when he begat them. And the boys grew up to their 15th year, and they came amongst the society of men. Esau was a designing and deceitful man, and an expert hunter in the field. And Jacob was a man perfect and wise, dwelling in tents, feeding flocks, and learning the instructions of the Lord and the commands of his father and mother. Now, think about this. What people are the most deceitful people in the world? And then ask yourself this question. And what people joined with them and then took over? I mean, just something for you to think about. You know, when you start pointing fingers at people, you know, they want to start flagging your videos and stuff like that. So, don't call no names. I'll let you do your research and figure it out. In the book of Jubilees, chapter 26, verses 34 and 35. And by the sword wilt thou live, and thou wilt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou becomest great, and dost shake the yoke from off thy neck, thou shalt sin a complete sin unto death, and thy seed shall be rooted out from under heaven. And Esau kept threatening Jacob, because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And he said in his heart, May the days of mourning for my father now come, so that I may slay my brother Jacob. And what have we been seeing throughout the entire history of the earth? Esau and Esau's descendants and the people that joined with him have been trying to destroy Jacob's descendants. They've been trying to destroy Jacob since Jacob was living. So when you start getting into those books over there, you start learning what Esau designed and schemed up. And this is from the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 6. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. See, our ancestors were actually punished for idolatry. We don't understand that. None of your well, I'm not going to say none of them. Most of your pastors will never touch on that from the pulpit. And they'll tell you all that stuff is in the past now. But they won't touch on it. They don't want to touch on the real people. But they'll sit there and lie to you from the pulpit every Sunday about the fake people. And you figure out who the fake people was. I mean, if you've been paying attention any time to what I've said, you automatically figure it out. I mean, just go back to the last video. So when we look around, what do we see? We see many crimes and atrocities committed against blacks going unpunished. So if we are not the apple of God's eye, why are we the only group of people who've been punished the way we have been punished historically? God is allowing these other folks to get away with things for now. I said something about the Bible a little while back, and a young lady asked me to explain. And when I explained to her, she said, well, I'm irreligious, and I had not opened a Bible since I was 15, so she had no clue what I was talking about. So why would you ask a question and then not want to engage when I answer your question? But that's how people are. And, that's what I'm finding out more and more. I found out over the years, people don't really want answers to their questions. They just want to see what you know. They don't care. In the book of Baruch, chapter 1, verse 15 through 21. This is the confession you should make. The Lord our God is righteous, but we are still covered with shame. All of us, the people of Judah. Do you know who Judah is yet? Have you figured out who Judah is yet? All the people of Judah, the people of Jerusalem, our kings, our rulers, our priests, our prophets, and our ancestors have been put to shame because we have sinned against the Lord our God and have disobeyed him. See, history won't even teach you about all of those black kings, all the black royalty that we once had. History won't teach you about Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was from the tribe of Judah, if I'm not mistaken. Bill Gates and Bezos and all these billionaires you had today, wealth couldn't touch Mansa Musa, but they'll never teach you that in school. So we had that. Everything we had was stolen from us. Everything. Birthright, money, neighborhoods, livelihoods, families. Well, let me get back to read that. We've disobeyed him. We did not listen to him or live according to his commandments. From the day the Lord brought our ancestors out of Egypt until the present day, we have continued to be unfaithful to him, and we have not hesitated to disobey him. Long ago, when the Lord led our ancestors out of Egypt so that he could give us a rich and fertile land, he pronounced curses against us through his servant Moses. And today we are suffering because of those curses. We refused to obey the word of the Lord our God, which he spoke to us through the prophets. Instead, we did as we pleased, and we went on our own evil way. We turned to other gods and did the things the Lord hates. Now, remember what I said in a previous video? The people we are taught were enslaved are not the people who were enslaved. And I'm not talking about the blacks in America. I'm talking about the people when they start going back and trying to reference the Bible, talking about the Jews in Egypt. That's the enslavement I'm talking about. And see, your pastors will get up in a pulpit and they'll talk about when the Jews were enslaved in Egypt, but they misunderstanding and improperly teaching who the Jews in Egypt were. So you can't say the word Jew and equate that to Judah. That's why they're called Jew, because they can't biblically claim to be Judah. So Judah was in bondage in Egypt. Now, the people who the pastors teach were enslaved and in bondage in Egypt. Remember what I said to you in last video about John chapter 8? When they told Jesus, they told Yeshua, they were never in bondage to any man. They said never. So never means never. So if they were never in bondage according to their own words, that means the people that were enslaved are somebody else other than what your pastors are teaching from the pulpit. Did you hear me say you brought our ancestors out of Egypt and we are still suffering? Now, the people that y'all say came out of Egypt, are they suffering worldwide? No, in most cases, they're on top worldwide. They're on top of everything. They own everything. So they're not suffering. What people as a whole are suffering around this world? What people have always suffered throughout history in the world? What group of people has never been on top of any society since those olden days, centuries ago? Remember, Esau is the end of this world, and Jacob is the beginning of the world to come. Who's controlling worldwide affairs right now? Esau. So if Esau is the end of this world, that means his time of reign has to come to an end at some point, and that point seems to be closing in on us real fast. Why do you think we keep hearing about a new world order? A new world, a new world. They're preparing you for the world to come on this plane, which is suffering for those who choose to follow them. So there are going to be two worlds. One controlled by Jacob and one controlled by Esau, an adversary. So you better figure out which one you want to be a part of. In the book of Baruch, chapter 2, verse 30, this is what it reads. I know that you will not obey me because you're a stubborn people. But when you are taken into exile in another land, you will come to your senses. See, God already knew how we were going to act, but he gave us free will. See, that goes back to when he kicked Lucifer out of heaven. Okay, you want to act up? Bye. And if God didn't give us free will as a people, he would be a dictator just like many of the world leaders are right now. I've heard many non-believers say that God allows suffering, so why should they believe? Hey, if God didn't allow free will, we would ask what kind of God would not allow us to choose our own things and behavior. So when we choose bad, we get bad. But non-believers want to say that's on God. But God's saying that's on you. You're not going to win an argument with these people. So the best advice I can give you is leave them alone. And, and since God already knew, it says in Baruch chapter 3 and 13, for if thou hast walked in the way of God, thou shouldst have dwelled in peace forever. Look at it this way. N-O, God, N-O, peace. No God, no peace. Or you can say K-N-O-W, God, K-N-O-W, peace. No God, no peace. Look at the world we live in right now. We don't have any peace whatsoever at all. They created the League of Nations, no peace. They created the United Nations, no peace. As a matter of fact, since the formation of the United Nations in 1948, the United States has been engaged in more military conflicts since 1948 than all of the United States history combined. So in 73 years since the United Nations was formed, the United States has been engaged in more conflicts than from the year 1776 to 1948. That's sickening. In 2nd Esdras, E-S-D-R-A-S, chapter 2, verse 1, this is what it reads. I led forth a people to whom I gave commandments, but they were unwilling to listen, and they ignored my advice. Now think about this. We disrespect our parents. I'm not saying us. I'm talking about as a whole when you pay attention through society. We disrespect our parents, which is one of the commandments. We murder our babies, which is against the commandments. We murder each other, which is against the commandments. I mean, I just read something the other day, and it said crime in the Houston area. I live in the Houston area. Since this time last year, violent crime is up 21%. And this time 2 years ago, in the city of Houston, violent crime is up 90%. Now, pay attention because Massachusetts state troopers just walked out. Some of Los Angeles police just walked out. I believe some of San Jose or San Francisco police officers just walked out. And there's a few other places, I think up in Chicago, a few police officers walked out. And they definitely didn't need nobody to walk out there. You think something might be in the juice to make all this crime go up, making people go crazy? Because there's a medication that comes on TV for depression. And they say one of the number one side effects is suicidal thoughts. So you're going to give somebody on depression a medication that's going to make them think about killing themselves. So you got all this crime up and you got all these police officers quitting. You think that's by accident or design? So you got murder. But let me get back to what I'm talking about. We actually worship graven images, which are against the commandments. What do you think statues are? Every time you put up a statue, you're practicing idol worship. That's why I don't care about no statues. I don't care about the Confederate statues. I don't care about all that stuff. I ain't never got caught up in that stuff. Martin Luther King got a statue, so. George Washington got a statue, so. Lincoln got a monument, so. I don't care. Jefferson Davis got a statue, so. They flying the Confederate flag, so. I don't care. They're graven images because that's what people are worshiping. They don't mean anything to me. As a matter of fact, no statues affect me because I don't go visit none of them. I don't even go visit grave sites after a family member has died. Ain't nothing there but a headstone. What I'm going there for? If we the type of people that think we can communicate with our ancestors, I mean, you don't need to go to the cemetery to do that. Well, I'm not here to talk about that either. But that stuff don't mean nothing to me. Government has become our God, which is against the commandments. Adultery is almost like polygamy nowadays because it's so rampant, which is against the commandments. We steal at will, which is against commandments. I mean, the biggest theft is happening right here within our government. And right now, I think they're voting on, how much more taxpayers' money they want to spend this year or for the next budget or whatever they do. And you know, I don't even get into that stuff. I used to get caught up in that stuff years ago. I don't even get it caught up because they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. It doesn't matter what the people want. They stopped representing the people a long time ago. Pastor, you figure that out, the better off you'll be. You know what? I was talking to one of the guys the other day, and saying everything that the people thought Donald Trump was, Joe Biden is. Joe Biden came out and said, and the guy told me, he said, Joe Biden said, he ain't letting the country go back to normal until 97, 98% of y'all take the juice. Are you free? But government has become our God. That's against the commandments. We steal, like I said, we're stealing at every level. You clock out 2 hours after you done went home, you're stealing. You take a pen from work without asking for permission, you're stealing. And I mean, that's, that you look at the things put in place to steal our hard-earned dollars from them. And they've plundered us so many years financially. And now they're going to make sure you can't even work to keep the little money they were allowing you to keep. But okay, let me get back to my content. I mean, we tell lies on people all the time. And what do you think slander is when someone tells the truth and another person creates falsehoods against that person? They call it conspiracy theories too. We covet, led more so by none other than the church establishment itself, which is against the commandments. How does the church teach covenant? What you think tithing is? Yeah, I know tithing is in the Bible, but tithing ain't money. But your pastor tell you it's money. So they coveting your goods. I even heard pastors say, you tithe before you take care of your responsibility. But if you tithe and you can't meet your responsibility, the church won't even come to your aid. I saw a pastor the other day say the reason Jesus hasn't returned yet is because people ain't been tithing enough. I mean, y'all keep going listening to these folks. I mean, something wrong with us. And the reason pastors get away with what they do, the reason government misleaders get away with what they do, the reason black misleaders get away with what they do is because we can't think. The people can't think. Jubilees, in the book of Jubilees, chapter 27, verses 1 and 2, this is what it reads. And the words of Esau, her oldest son, were told to Rebekah in a dream. And Rebekah sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, Esau thy brother will take vengeance on thee, so as to kill thee. Now, Jacob has known for years that Esau hated him and wanted to kill him. However, even though Jacob passed that on to his descendants, the descendants act like things have changed with Esau, between Esau and Jacob. Because Jacob's descendants keep running to Esau and asking Esau to make them equal with them. Esau ain't gonna make you equal because Esau is still upset. And I'm talking about Esau's descendants. And over here, once again, Jubilees chapter 27, verses 21 and 23. And I'm almost done. And he dreamt that night, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angel of the Lord ascended and descended on it. And behold, the Lord stood up on it. And he spake to Jacob and said, I am Lord God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou art sleeping, to thee I will give it into thy seed after thee. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt increase to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the nations be blessed. Some of you may ask, how have we blessed the nations of this world when we've been in misery? Well, if you look around the world, Jacob descendants built all those nations. And through our suffering, Jacob's descendants led many to follow Christ because some of us were still faithful even in despair. Now, I'm going to close out and read you something from Jubilees 36:9. I never found this in the Bible, and I've looked again. I found this in the Bible. But this is Isaac speaking to Jacob and Esau right before he passed. And if either one of you devises evil against his brother, know that from henceforth everyone that devises evil against his brother shall fall into his hand, and shall be rooted out of the land of the living, and his seed shall be destroyed from under heaven. Isaac told his sons, the two twins, what would happen if they did this. Esau would agree to this, talking to his father, but his sons were the ones who came along and changed it because they were upset. They were jealous that Jacob had more. Jacob and his family had more. So they were devising schemes to kill Jacob and his family. And if you get into more of Jubilees, you'll see what Isaac told them they better stop. But Jacob had got word from his uncle, I believe. And Jacob started preparing, and Esau told them boys, hey, y'all might want to reconsider because Jacob's army is a little too strong for y'all. So I'm going to cut that one off right here for now. And as I stated before, I love you guys. And I thank all of you who faithfully listen. And I thank all of you who promote and share the videos and any other things that I talk about. I'm not doing this for my mental health because I could sit here and it could just be me and my wife talking about the Bible and the Apocrypha. But I know that's not my assignment. Jesus said you go into all four corners of the world and make disciples of men. And so I might not stand behind a pulpit. And I've said before, I'm kind of, after doing a lot of Bible study anyway, I'm starting to see that that's not even biblical anymore, but I'm not here to talk about that. But my objective is to pass information on to you. I'm not trying to create division. I'm just trying to open your eyes to some things. Because you my brother, you my sister, regardless of what your color is, if we following the same God and we're heading the same direction, we might not get there the same way, but we're going to the same place. It's like me living in Houston and somebody living in Seattle, and we're both trying to go to Jacksonville, Florida. We're going to end up at the same place, but it's going to take us different routes to get there. So I'm just doing it to try to bring some awareness and open some eyes. So if you find value in this and you think you know somebody that could appreciate the information I just shared, please don't hesitate to share. Please click like. If you click like, it'll push it up in the YouTube algorithm. Because since they demonetized me, my videos don't get the coverage anymore. So, I'm not begging. I'm just asking you to help, if you believe in the message. So have a great day.